Good morning, it's Alan Hollander, and welcome to the Morning After for January the 21st, 2014. A little more civilized program this morning. Yesterday we really went off on our Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, and so we're not going to be having any politics this morning. Well, I shouldn't say not any. We might have some of the stories behind the headlines, if it's political or not, but we shall see. But yesterday was a day to rant, shall we say. At any rate, I wanted to start off with a Canadian story. Obviously, we're broadcasting from the beautiful shores of the Lake Okanagan in Peachland, British Columbia, Canada. And this morning we said, as in French would say, au revoir to a legendary football player by the name of Anthony Calvillo, who announced his retirement today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Anthony Calvillo because he's become a legend in the Canadian Football League. And just moments ago, after a Hall of Fame career that spanned 20 seasons and more than 79,000 yards and countless records, Montreal Alouettes quarterback Anthony Calvillo announced his retirement from professional football. The longtime face of the franchise and five-time CFL All-Star was named the CFL's most outstanding player on three separate occasions over the course of his career, and he holds league records of 79,816 passing yards, 455 touchdown passes, 5,892 completions, and 9,437 pass attempts. Folks, he is not only a legend in the Canadian Football League, but he has set the record for most yards in all of football. So that includes the NFL. So this has been quite an accomplishment for Anthony Calvillo, and as he said, it's been quite a ride. And as a kid growing up in California, he said, I never thought that it would be possible to play professional football for 20 years in a country and a city that I knew nothing of. He resides right now in Montreal with his wife, Alexia, and two daughters, Olivia and Athena. He says, I will forever be thankful to our owner, Bob Wettenhall, and general manager, Jim Pop, for allowing this franchise to have all the success that we have had over the years. The city of Montreal and all the great Alouette fans across the province of Quebec have embraced me, and that feeling is mutual. Calvillo broke into the CFL with the Las Vegas Posse in 1994 and spent the following three seasons with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, before rising to stardom after joining the Montreal Alouettes in 1998, serving as quarterback, Tracy Ham's understudy for 2 years. Calvillo took over as the starting pivot in the year 2000 on his way to winning 3 Grey Cups with Montreal in 2002, 2009, and in 2010. He was also named the 2002 Grey Cup Most Outstanding Player. Calvillo, who was presented with the key to the city at the end of the 2011 season, led the Alouettes to 8 Grey Cup appearances, and he owns several championship records for the most pass completions, 179 passing yards, 2,470, and touchdown passes thrown. Today, a hero to many steps to the side, not to be forgotten, but to be cherished and respected for years to come. Everybody around the league is raving about Anthony Calvillo. So we've inserted a link on our on the newspaper site today that you can check all of his records and videos and comments of people all around the Canadian Football League who are heaping praise on Mr. Anthony Calvillo. So Anthony Calvillo, the legendary Anthony Calvillo, announcing his retirement this morning after a career of 20 seasons in professional football. Okay, moving on. Another sports-related story, which is front of mind, and that's this young tennis phenomena, Eugenie Bouchard. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, but I believe that is the correct pronunciation. Eugenie Bouchard. She last night advanced to the Australian Open semifinals And this is quite the story with respect to this 19-year-old gal. First Canadian to reach the Australian Open. She's actually the first Canadian to reach a Grand Slam semifinal in 30 years after a stunning upset of Ana Ivanovic at the Australian Open. Bouchard, the 30th seed, overcame Serbia's Ivanovic 5-7, 7-5, 6-2 late Monday, making the Montreal native just the second Canadian to ever compete in a Grand Slam singles semi. The last Canadian to go to the semis at a major was Toronto's Carling Bassett at the 1984 U.S. Open. Bouchard's Final Four spot is the first for a Canadian in Melbourne. The 19-year-old did it in just under 2.5 hours. "We had a tough match. She was playing well at times," said Bouchard. "When she did, there was not much I could do. I kept fighting, played aggressive, and stepped it up in the second and third sets. The most important thing is to enjoy it out there, and that's what I've been doing. I tried to stay calm and go for my short. That's when I play my best." Bouchard will play next against China's Li Na, the 4th seed, after the former French Open champion defeated Italy's Flavia Pennetta 6-2, 6-2. "I played Li in Montreal in 2012. We had a tough battle, but I was not so experienced back then," said Bouchard. "This time I'll be ready. She won't give me any chances, so I'll have to take any that I get." Bouchard's ranking should rise into the top 20 as a result of her success, according to WTA calculations. She also beat Ivanovic, a former world number 1 and 14th seed last year in the second round of Wimbledon. Bear in mind, she's only 19 years old. Bouchard stayed calm under pressure from an opponent who won the 2008 French Open but was treated repeatedly for thigh injuries, ending with 7 breaks of serve and 47 winners. Bouchard made a charging start with a love game and saved a pair of break points in the third game for 2-1. But she lost her way in the 7th game to begin what turned into a run of 5 consecutive breaks. From 5-5, when she saved 2 break points, Bouchard lost 8 of 9 points, 6 through unforced errors. The experienced Ivanovic broke for 6-5 and finally claimed the set after 47 minutes on her 4th chance, with Bouchard having a third set winner on an Ivanovic error before netting a backhand. In the second set, Bouchard kept calm as she began to make up ground, taking a 3-1 lead on a break, but Ivanovic showed her own fight in a 10-minute 7th game, which the Serb won to break 4-5 after 6 deuces. Ivanovic was then taken off court by a trainer for treatment on a thigh, with Bouchard forced to wait for more than 7 minutes. As she waited, Bouchard's approximately dozen-strong Aussie-born Genie Army chanted. They presented her with a new stuffed animal doll after each match. Bouchard came straight back when play resumed, breaking Ivanovic to love with a winner in the corner, but again failed to hold the break, with Ivanovic coming back for a 4-5 and serving to 5-all. Bouchard leveled at a set each as Ivanovic double-faulted twice in the final game to hand over a 7-5 result. Bouchard began the third set with another double and went down a break 1-3, then reached 5-2 as she sent Ivanovic chasing helpless to the far corner of the court in pursuit of a winner. She closed out victory with a forehand winner to the corner for a 7th break of serve. So tomorrow night at 6:30 Pacific is when she is in the semifinals playing Li Na. I'm sure every set in Canada will be tuned in to tomorrow night's match. So that's our item for tennis this morning. We've covered football, and let's go to hockey now. And what can we say? It was announced yesterday at the league office that John Tortorella has been suspended 15 days, while the Flames coach, Hartley, was fined $25,000 US. The NHL suspended Vancouver Canucks John Tortorella without pay for 15 days and 6 games yesterday for his conduct after a brawl between his team and the Calgary Flames. Tortorella went to Calgary's locker room at intermission following the first period Saturday night, which began with a handful of fights. We don't have a cough switch. That's one of the things we don't have. Broadcasting today from the studio here in beautiful downtown, as they used to say. We don't have a cough switch. Anyways, y'all know the story. Saturday night, Tortorella lived up to his billing as probably one of the most aggravating coaches in all of hockey. He went to Calgary, and Vancouver Canucks hired him. What can you say? Tortorella went into Calgary's locker room At intermission, following the first period Saturday night, which began with a handful of fights and 4 game misconducts per team, Mr. Tortorella's actions in attempting to enter the Calgary Flames locker room after the first period were both dangerous and an embarrassment to the league. Quote from NHL Senior Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations Colin Campbell. That's what he said in announcing the suspension. Coaches in the NHL bear the responsibility of providing leadership even when emotions run high, and Mr. Tortorella failed in his responsibility to the game, he said. Amen to that, but also amen to the fact that, Tortorella blamed Flames coach Bob Hartley for starting his fourth line, saying he couldn't put star players Daniel and Henrik Sedin at risk just to deflate the situation. Hartley was fined $25,000 US by the NHL. All Tortorella had to do, he didn't have to put the Sedins out there. He could have put anybody else out there. He's using the Sedins as a sort of a bit of a crutch with this thing. But, there's a whole bench that he could have brought on. He didn't have to play the Sedins. Anyways, it's inexcusable. And, the league said we're holding Mr. Hartley responsible for the actions of Flames right-wing Kevin Westgarth, who took the game's opening faceoff and attempted to instigate a premeditated fight with an unwilling opponent, the Canucks' Kevin Bieksa. That's what Colin Campbell said. So, what's Tortorella's record? Well, this is the second career suspension for Tortorella, who missed Game 6 of the 2009 Eastern Conference quarterfinals as coach of the New York Rangers for throwing a water bottle into the stands in Washington. Tortorella's suspension begins tonight with Vancouver's game at the Edmonton Oilers and runs through February 2nd. He is not allowed to have any interaction with the Canucks before, during, or after games during that time. Now here's Mike Gillis's statement. Of course, he's going to support Tortorella, I should say. Here's what Mike Gillies had to say. We respect the decision made by the National Hockey League today to suspend John Tortorella for 15 days from Sunday with no contact with the team for 6 games, said Canuck President, General Manager Mike Gillies in a statement. We would also like to acknowledge our organization's full support for John, and we look forward to having him back behind the bench soon. In other words, we acknowledge and support his behavior. That's what, to me, is striking about what's acceptable and what isn't. I'd be embarrassed if I was a general manager. Instead, we support him. We look forward to having him back so he might be able to do this again. On the other hand, Brian Burke, Flames president now of hockey operations, didn't react as positively to Hartley's fine. I am perplexed by this fine, Burke said in a statement released by the team. I stand behind Bob Hartley completely in this regard and remain confident that he acted properly in every aspect of this game. So, the general managers, what are they going to do? Throw these guys under the bus? But clearly, John Tortorella has a history, and Bob Hartley doesn't. So, we'll see what happens down the road. People are saying that he did this to, kind of shake up the team, so to speak, because they've been lackluster. They've only won 1 out of 9 games. They're not aggressive enough. They're not tough enough. Blah, 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 etc. Who knows what his thinking is? But obviously, when he came to Vancouver, he said, I've changed. I've mellowed. I'm not the same guy I was. I'm into the laid-back lifestyle on the coast. Blah, blah, blah. Not true. All right. Moving along, here's some news in Canada, which a lot of people, this just came over the wire this morning, that Bombardier was laying off 1,700 workers, not just in Canada, but the U.S. as well. Excuse me, I'm sorry for coughing this morning. I really need a lozenge or something. Anyways, Bombardier is slashing 6% of its workforce in the aerospace division. The Montreal-based company told employees on Tuesday that cuts are required due to delays in the launch of new planes and tough market conditions. Out of the 1,700 employees who will lose their jobs, 1,100 are in the Montreal region and 600 are in the U.S., mostly in Wichita, Kansas. According to a company spokesperson, the layoffs will affect temporary and permanent staff in manufacturing, assembly, engineering, and sales. The company said it needs to preserve cash amid delays in the C-Series commercial jet and Learjet 85 business jet, as well as due to tough market conditions. The announcement follows several recent setbacks for Bombardier, which is one of the world's largest aircraft manufacturers. It announced last week that its new C-Series commercial jet won't be ready for service until the second half of 2015, several months later than its already delayed previous goal. On Monday, Bombardier said it received